Complexity are coming back to North America, but are you ready? I don't think you are. Today I want to watch two games that they played previously. One from Open Qualifier 6 of last season, once they had the roster that they're bringing over for next season. That's CRR, Reysbull, and Diaz. And then the other one is going to be from the Copenhagen Major before they picked up Diaz, when they had DORITO on the roster, just so you guys can get a little bit of a feel of what they looked like against a team in Gen.G that you definitely will recognize. So let's go ahead and start there at the Major and see what Complexity are going to be bringing to the pitch in North America next season. All right, on the pitch here, Complexity taking on Gen.G. This is from round 5 of the Copenhagen Major. This is actually the last time we saw Complexity at the international stage. And round 5 here, if you remember how this tournament goes, you might be able to guess what the outcome is going to be. But, you know, Complexity put up a great fight. We're rocking here with CRR, one of, if not the only player who's played across 3 regions. Of course, started out Spanish players, started out playing in Europe. Famously won a Gamers 8 event as a part of a guild. Kind of the carry of that team. He was playing their 1v1s and stuff like that. Of course, beside him, Reysbull. The two of them have been teammates since September 22, and they've had a couple of teammates come and go since then. AJG, of course, slotted in for a little bit. DORITO, and finally, as they're moving over to North America, bringing on Diaz as their new third. I wanted to take you through some of their results, but first, look at this pop bass here by CRR to Reysbull. Unable to put it away with enough force, but great heads-up play there by CRR to set up his teammate. And then here is going to take a heads-on challenge against Chronic to try and keep Gen.G stuck in their own half. Started off the season really strong. They actually won their first event, and taking a step back in just a moment, the context might be helpful. They were, at least for a little bit, intending on playing in North America last season, but I believe due to visa issues and bringing over DORITO, they said, hey, it's just easier if we play in SAM. So they win Open Qualifier 1. They actually sweep Furia in the grand finals, and it's looking like, hey, we all thought that Furia were going to be kind of the team coming back here, but Complexity might have something to say about it. They end up going top 4 in Open Qualifier 2. Furia get their revenge. Then they place second in Open Qualifier 3. Hey, not the one they wanted, but qualify for the Major. And that's where we have them here in Copenhagen. After they were unable to make it into the playoffs, spoiler alert, they're going to lose this one to Gen.G overall. That's a great 50 tackle there from CRR. They go top 4 once they pick up Diaz. Top 4 Open Qualifier 4, top 8 Open Qualifier 5, and then another top 8 Open Qualifier 6. They miss Major 2 and the World Championship. Not the way you want to finish the season out with a new player, as Reysbull is going to dive across there to get the save, and then CRR is going to go off the ceiling to keep this out defensively and get a demo for his troubles. So definitely not the way that you want to end the season, but you know, it was really close all the way through, and Diaz is still a new player. Started off last season with W7M playing alongside Wisty and Royales, and look at this 1-2 punch from Reysbull and CRR. Let's hop over to the bull real quick. This one gets up quick. Firstkiller thinks he has time. Is just going to get absolutely dusted. Chronic is not ready for a clean beat, and CRR is going to jump on it immediately for 1-0. With only a minute 45 left, a 1-0 scoreline is exactly what you want if you're Complexity. They like to play things tight. There are not a lot of shootouts that you find them in, and over the last couple of seasons, they actually win the lion's share of their matches in low-scoring affairs. You know, a lot of 1-0, 2-0, 2-1 style score lines. They like to get out like they are here against Gen.G, restrict scoring and shooting opportunities, and just try and win the war of attrition. That one's going to get over the top of DORITO, but CRR is going to easily clear that one out. And then here is Reysbull, that's going to catch and isn't going to commit too far here against Jack until he eventually does. And we're just seeing, you know, a lot of composed defense on this side of the pitch, which was not surprising that they were going for it. Reysbull off the ceiling there. But it was surprising given their, given the players on their roster. DORITO, somebody who had played historically with CRR, they actually won Gamers 8 together. So he kind of came over and slotted in, but not necessarily a defensive stalwart by any means. And yet, they were still able to get it done. Of course, over the course of this series, it didn't work out. This is the only game that they were able to win, and Gen.G kind of turned it into a track meet outside of this. It's something that has hurt them in the past, but hopefully next season they are going to try and do a little more scoring, especially with their new weapon Diaz, we're going to see in just a moment. Chronic keeps that out, but CRR, just for good measure here, is going to tuck this one in all the way out to the midfield and is just going to read this like a hawk. It gets right to it, and just for good measure there, CRR 2 goals to his name, 3 saves, 3 for Reysbull as well, as they are going to not only shut out Gen.G but actually outshoot them, which is a rarity for teams going up against Gen.G. So a big win there, kind of shows you what this duo was able to do at the international stage in the very recent past. Now let's take a look at what they look like with their young upstart talent Diaz on the roster. Open Qualifier 6 here, rocking with Diaz as they go up against Hero Base, a team of just incredible Sam talent. You know, we were talking about AJG a second ago, and I always like to reminisce. I made some videos many majors back about some of my favorite players from the event, and AJG was pretty high on my list. I remember he was just going on a tear, and it got me thinking about all the South American players that I've really enjoyed. You know, Shad, Drops. I got a little list that I put together here. Brad, Lost, Atomic, Royales, Kaio and Card, KV1, Sad. There's a lot of great players, and maybe Diaz is going to get added to that list here. Like we said, started out the season with W7M, and I don't know his game too well. I of course know that he's gotten a lot of buzz this off season. He's gone 13-4 on Fears, in Fears show matches rather, and then in those Shopify Rebellion Arm the Rebels that they're doing, he has 2 1v1 wins and then a second place in the other ATR event for North America. So he has just been putting on an absolute show in the 1v1 scene, but will that translate to 3v3? Well, late last season it did not, and this matchup that we're watching here is going to be the inevitable end of that run. Like I said, they ended up making top 8 in this Open Qualifier 6, going up against a really dangerous Hero Base team here, but a team that they should certainly be beating. This is game 5. This one's going to end up going 7. Something that this Complexity team liked to do quite a bit last season. They took Ninjas in Pajamas to 7 in one of their matchups. They're of course taking Hero Base here, and there's another one that I'm forgetting. I don't believe that they took Fury to 7 because very few teams took Fury to 7. But control here from Diaz. The ball gets a little bit underneath of him, and it's going to end up being an easy kind of turnover there. Puts his team in a tough position. They're trying to clamor here defensively. Sticks with this one, tries to get it beat out, but it actually just floats right into the middle. This is not a very strong defensive possession here for Diaz. Is going to trip up Klaus in the midfield. He's got boost here, so you want him to get kind of below this, but the ball kind of goes off the ceiling and ends up, he's going down, so his only play is to take a 50 there. CRR's got to dive on this one, and Sad has the ball here. Really, you should try and just allow that to force or let a teammate cut in, but instead Diaz just kind of with the double goof there is going to give it up. You know, it wasn't too long ago that Complexity were really good. We just saw them at Copenhagen, but even the season before, 22-23, top 4 at a winter major. They end up losing to FaZe Clan, who ended up going to the grand finals. Top 8 in spring, and then at the World Championship, they missed the playoffs. That's that infamous AJG shot where he was fairly wide open, even though he had a great event. That play is kind of the one that we're going to remember. You know how it goes. Reysbull and Diaz are getting tied over one another here. The pre-flip save to try and get out, and Diaz just cannot help but get bumped by his teammates and the opponents in this game here. You know, CRR is, in my opinion, one of the most unique offensive weapons that we have in the game. Especially his combination of ground dribbles and change of pace, and you know, being able to find his teammates when needed. Really enjoy watching CRR. That was a great squishy save there by Diaz, and Reysbull is going to keep out as well. Only one goal here. You can tell between the two games, and of course it's anecdotal, it's just 2 games, but in that matchup we saw against Gen.G, they looked really comfortable, even though they were sustaining quite a bit of pressure. They look a little more jumpy here against this hero-based team. But now the question is, now that they're coming back to North America, where is this team going to slot in? Well, of course, there's what's now former G2, probably not going to be favored over them, I wouldn't think. Of course, there's the Firstkiller and LJ duo who's going to be picking somebody up. We have the new SSG roster, the former Snowmen. Nali and Kofa are going to lock. It seems like, what's the news? Excuse me, that we just saw on JNAPS? Is that talk or 5-up? I think there's a lock there. And then, of course, RMC, former Luminosity, who sounds like it might be Gen.G next season per some reporting by Achilles, unless I have that incorrect. So, by my estimate, I probably have Complexity somewhere between 3rd and 5th. While I'm not crazy about that Firstkiller and LJ duo, regardless of who they're going to bring in as their 3rd, that team is still really good, especially online. G2, former G2, just seems like an obvious number 1 choice. And then RMC, you know, they've kind of stuck around together, but I could see this Complexity team being competitive with them, as we're going to get the ball falling to the floor here. Reysbull, a goal and 5 saves. Diaz facilitating to both of his teammates throughout this one here, save to his name as well. And CRR bringing up the rear with a goal himself, taking out Hero Base in this game 5. Ultimately, they're going to drop this one in 7. But just to finish up the thoughts for next season, you know, CRR and Reysbull is a duo that I can really get behind. I'm a big fan of them and have been in the past. The question is just, is Diaz going to be able to translate what he's done on the pitch in the 1v1 setting over to 3v3? It's something that some players can do incredibly well. We've seen previously where great 1v1 play can directly correlate to high level wins at 3v3. But you know, it's definitely not as stacked at the top end as Europe, but NA is in kind of a transitional period with some of these teams coming together. At least the way I look at it, I think that this team could be really competitive, and the move back to North America should probably be their intention is to try and make majors on a consistent basis here. So I believe in them. If I had to do it on paper, and of course I'm leaving out teams, and like this exercise for what it's worth is kind of useless. Right now, if I'm just going those 5 teams, G2, RMC, Firstkiller and LJ duo, SSG, and Complexity, I'm probably going to go G2, Firstkiller and LJ. I really like SSG, but am I getting fooled? I'll probably go Complexity RMC SSG. What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments down below, guys. Another request for anybody who knows, I honestly haven't watched too much of Diaz. The bulk of what he's done, especially this offseason, has been 1v1. I just don't make time for a ton of 1v1. I'm a 3v3 purist, and 2v2s when I need something to kind of scratch the itch. But what have you guys made out of Diaz so far? Do you think that he has the potential to be a top 10 talent in North America next season? Please let me know below if there's a matchup you think that I should go watch out of all the show matches he's done, or events that he's been in. Would love to check those out as well. So guys, that's it for today's video. Complexity is back. Don't forget about him when you're making your predictions going into next season for North America. As always, guys, until next time, take it easy.